college football playoff. We talked some about the odds. Georgia now a pretty prohibitive favorite to win this thing. Any value to you on teams potentially winning the national championship? My prediction would be that it's going to be, I think Georgia is going to beat Bama, as I said. Georgia will be the 1. I think the 2 seed is going to be Michigan, who I expect to beat Iowa. I think the 3 seed is going to be Oklahoma State, who I expect to beat Baylor. And then the 4 seed will be Cincinnati, who I expect to beat Houston. Then you would have Georgia against Cincinnati and Michigan against Oklahoma State. I like Georgia to win that foursome. Anybody outside of those 4 you think are going to end up in the playoff, Furman? Any value on the national title futures at this point in your mind?
So I do agree with your foursome there. I think that's what's going to happen. I know there are a lot of college football purists or blue bloods, whatever terminology we want to use, that are probably rooting against Cincinnati because they don't want to see a group of 5 program get included. But my whole take is, if not now, then when? And Cincinnati has answered the bell when needed. We've seen them play arguably their 2 best games of the season defensively against AAC opponents in completely shutting down SMU and ECU the last 2 weeks. They went on the road and beat a Notre Dame team that wasn't quite the same Irish side that we saw late in the year, but it's still an impressive road victory. And just to kind of look ahead, I mean, Georgia projects to be anywhere from 16 to a 17-point favorite in that semifinal matchup against Cincinnati. So I don't see value in either of those 2 teams. But I do think Michigan, this is a team that if they're able to get through Iowa in a little bit of a sleepy spot, even in a championship scenario, that hasn't been given enough credit for not only what they bring to the table on the defensive side, but you look at their offensive numbers. I mean, this is the most dynamic offense that Coach Harbaugh has had, because he's going to have healthy running backs in Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum should they get to the semifinal. We saw Donovan Edwards explode as a receiver in the game against Maryland. I think he finished with 10 catches for close to 170 yards receiving. You have a tight end in Eric All. You have a couple receivers that have filled in nicely in the absence of Ronnie Bell. And the one thing for Georgia, all the talk this season has been, you have to have an explosive offense to put Georgia's defense in a difficult position. I'm going to go the exact opposite. I think what you have to have is a very good defense to make Georgia's offense struggle a little bit, because they haven't been in a 4-quarter fight. And I think Michigan checks those boxes. So I would make a case for Michigan. I think they're 14 or 15-1 at FanDuel at last check. And that would be the team, I think, a little bit of a dark horse to potentially win the national title.
What would that line be if that was the national title game? Georgia against Michigan. That game, by the way, would be played in Indianapolis, which is a little bit unique of a location. Obviously, probably would be, although Georgia fans would travel like crazy.
Georgia
for
fans
that
will
game.
travel, right?
That would be a wildly difficult ticket, because Michigan hasn't played in a national title game in 20 years. And you would also have Georgia, which hasn't won a national title since 1980. What's the line look like in that game?
So for that game, I mean, so much will hinge on public perception. And so I know it's a caveat and a little bit of a cop-out, but if Georgia were to go out there and say sneak by Cincinnati, by a touchdown, and Michigan potentially obliterated their foe, let's use Oklahoma State hypothetically, you could see a number open right around a touchdown. For me at this point, if those 2 teams were to play on a neutral, I would probably use Georgia in that 9.5 range, maybe a shade lower. I wouldn't want to go as low as a touchdown, but I also wouldn't want to go as high as 10. But at this point as well, I think Michigan's stock is clearly trending up. And what you have in play, why Georgia isn't a touchdown favorite against Alabama, is the coaching matchup as much as anything else, where I think a lot of people would look at Georgia against the Big Ten champion and be a little bit reluctant. But I could see it anywhere from 7.5 to 9.5, barring injury or something, outside of the scope of our comprehension happening between now and a potential national title game.